Good evening, everyone, and welcome again to this series of our EcoTV series. I remain Chukwukamonye, the host for now. I'm happy to have with us, I'll start just from my left, Dorothy. Dorothy is our marketing manager. We have Rejoice. She's appearing in ghost mode. We have Peter, our MD. We have Tobiloba Babajide, who is our data manager. And of course, we have Chukwuemeka Monyi, who is a guest appearing today on this series. I do hope you have an exciting time within the little few minutes we're going to spend today. So, Toby, I'm going to dive straight into our last week's projections for the week. I mean, every time I sound like a broken record. We've gone 1 week now since last week. In hindsight, what do you say about the economy of the country?
Okay, well, good evening, everybody, once again. But in hindsight, I'll say nothing much has really changed. I don't think there's anything to be particularly excited about. There's nothing there's no new development that warrants a kind of maybe positive, let's say, positive. I don't know what is, but there's nothing that has been done so far that makes me really say, okay, I have more confidence in this current government, or in the fact that things are getting better. So price of things are still getting more expensive. Housing is getting more expensive, by the way. So yeah, nothing has changed for me.
Hindsight, nothing has changed. All right, Peter.
Okay. So for me. Yes, I know that last week we were kind of going back and forth, saying whether things will get better or not. But I think that, from the little I've read of the news, I saw that the government has chosen to, I think they want to distribute 25,000 naira or something to some people. And also they have a plan to tackle food insecurity. So, and also I saw that the dollar strengthened, the naira strengthened against the dollar over the week. I think it fell from 1.3 to 1,000. So, I mean, I wouldn't say nothing has changed because things are always in a state of flux, right? So, but I can't say if that's going to be a positive thing or not. Maybe by next week things get worse again. But I think, like I said earlier the last time, there are some good sort of signs coming forth. Maybe it's because I'm just reading what I see. That's what.
All right. Okay. So it's what it is. We'll do a deep dive. Peter, I think you've just led us into what we're supposed to do next, which is discuss about the currency tracker. So over the weekend, we saw a massive or significant improvement in Naira strengthening against the dollar. Now, the problem here is Naira strengthening against the dollar. Nigerians have this psychological attachment to our exchange rates, especially compared with the dollar. The problem here is that there was no announcement or improvement in output. So it's not as if we had maybe Nigeria all of a sudden broke significant grounds in maybe the output of crude oil in terms of our capacity, or there were some significant improvements in our output as a country. Basically, what happened here most likely is rumor mongering, of perceived inflow of forex the government is supposed to receive, maybe from some gas deals or some sale of future gas production or something. Now, the question here is how sustainable is this in the long term? I mean, if the government is using scarce foreign reserves, present and future, to defend the naira and flood the market, especially, of course, in clearing some of the forwards, some of the forwards is hard to clear, outstanding payments, forex payments that it needed to clear. The question here currently is how sustainable is this in the long term, considering the low foreign reserves we have, and of course, the mounting problems that the country has. So Toby, I go to you. How sustainable is this in the long term for Nigeria?
Well, I don't know if I can categorically answer that question. But one thing I'd say is that something that we have seen over time as well, particularly since the floating of Naira, is that there are times when the Naira has strengthened. In fact, there was a period when the Naira strengthened like so much that the expectation of law was going to drop back down to 100 and something Naira, to the dollar and things like that. There are a lot of all those rumors and suggestions back then, but we see that doesn't always happen. And if another way of looking at it is, okay, yeah, the Naira did strengthen to an extent, but the parallel market rate is still very high, right? That one, there was really no major improvement. So we cannot say that the strength of the Naira was proportional in both CBN rates and parallel market rates. So as to whether that is sustainable, I cannot categorically answer that question. And again, there's this trend that towards the end of the year, the Naira always weakens against the other currencies and everything like that. So it's something that in a short amount of time, you might see that an increase again in the exchange rate. So I genuinely cannot say that this is going to be very, very sustainable. Maybe it's just a shock response to some of the things that are, like you said, that are rumors that are going on. But whether that's going to be maintained, we can only wait and see.
Now, what will you be looking for between the parallel rates and the CBN rates to assure you that perhaps the government is serious about actually letting Naira determine or find its value, its real value in the market, rather than intervening from time to time and just wasting scarce foreign reserves?
Okay, well, one thing that we probably would let's say be hoping to see is that the parallel market rate and CBN rates should not be so far off from each other. Right, so right now the parallel market rates that last week stands at 1,175 Naira. The CBN rates are around 807 Naira. So there is a bit of a gap there, more than 300 Naira difference in the two rates. So probably what we'll be hoping to see is that the parallel market rate also responds probably the same way the CBN rate is, but until we see that, we cannot categorically say again that the Naira is doing better, or because again, like you said, we have not really seen any major developments that would probably cause us to see that kind of response by the Naira. So again, we can only just wait a few more maybe time to see what's going to happen.
Peter, in your own opinion, what will you be looking for before you can be certain that perhaps this government is serious in tackling other issues rather than focusing on our exchange rate?
What should I be looking for? What I will be looking for is like I've said, I alluded to this last time, is policy changes. Because, like we've said, the problem with Nigeria's economy is a very complicated and very, I don't know what to use, but it's very complicated. There's so many things that are interwoven, right? So, in the short term, what I think and I think that's probably, I alluded to this last time, which is like what drives the market or what informs the market, especially when we're talking about currencies, and stocks and all that stuff. What affects the movement of this market is policies that the government or the banks, the central bank or the finance minister, all those people, and all that, what they are talking about. So that's probably why we've seen such a move. Is people are saying, okay, it's like there's hope, and then they begin to buy or sell or whatever. So, I can't say if it's going to sustain it, like I said earlier, but if the government can find a way to continue to make responsible decisions, right, and bring up policies that will encourage this FDI, encourage the foreign investment, those people to have some confidence in the Nigerian government, then it will be sustainable, at least at that level. You might not see how much it will trickle down to the average Nigerian, might take some while for it to trickle down to the average Nigerian. But as long as they keep doing those kinds of things, then definitely it will get to the people. That's what we're looking at.
So let me come back to you again. We are currently on our leaderboard. And what we are seeing on the leaderboard is on the top 10 states, the most affordable states for the country, we still have Taraba and Adamawa maintaining their enviable first and second position. Of course, the last two states on that top 10 list there remain the same, unchanged, Zamfara and Benue. Now, over the last 1 week, we've seen issues with increase in the price of gas. We've also seen issues around the country, especially with regards to the cost of living crisis and all that. In your opinion, from the leaderboard here, I mean, based on the data we are gathering, especially from the prices of food, the cost of cooking gases. I know we have a survey that we've just concluded across the country, and the results will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. But what are you seeing from the data we gather, especially on our dashboard? And just to let our viewers know that if you go on our website, www.oaksintelligence.co/dashboard, either on your mobile phone or using the website, you'll be met with our dashboard, and on our dashboard you have access to all of the raw data that we gather in terms, plotted in values. So you can select prices of different commodities, items, transport, cooking gases, everything, and even distill them by the local governments that we cover across the country. So Toby, what are you seeing with the data that we are gathering, and especially how it relates to the affordability, the issue of affordability like we have on the leaderboard?
Okay, well, for the leaderboard, again, the top 10 states, probably there'll be a few changes, or as we've seen, there are maybe 1 or 2 changes to the top 10 usually. But typically, these states that we see here right now are always in the top 10, as well as the bottom 10 as well. Most of the states that you find there, they've been there for a while, and it doesn't like there's more changing. And it doesn't seem like that's going to change for a while. So in addition to our dashboard, we also have the leaderboard dashboard as well that shows the ranks of states over the period of 1 year. And if you check it, you'll see that there hasn't really been a change for about 6 months now, particularly in terms of top 10. And that's just because the prices of food items, probably food inflation in particular, is definitely affecting a lot more states than others. And even though we can obviously see that there's an increase in prices of food items across majority of the states, the northern ones that we see here, Taraba, Adamawa, Bauchi, Borno, Gombe, Benue, they are states that you probably continue to find in the top 10 again, due to the fact that things are very affordable there. And again, I do not see that changing in the long run, because even if you say some states are at risk of food insecurity, like the FG declared that for the reason next year that the country is going to be 2.6 million people in the country are going to be at risk of food insecurity. Even in saying that, we know that it's going to affect some regions of the country probably more than others, right? Even I think there was even a list of some states that were probably going to be more affected, Sokoto and Zamfara were going to be probably more affected. But then, in general, we would still see that the cost of the items would remain cheaper in most of the states compared to the southern states. Probably there will be more affordability because we focus on the southern states, but at the same time, the price of these food items are still going to remain cheaper there. And if you notice, Taraba has basically overtaken Adamawa 3 weeks ago, and that stayed there. So we don't know what's happening at Adamawa. Maybe things are actually getting more expensive, and maybe they need to drop out of the top 2. But so far, Taraba and Adamawa, they are maintaining a very strong position.
Now, Toby, let me just put this in context so that we don't create confusion for our viewers. When we say affordable, this means uniform weighting is applied across all the different classes. So there's no class giving more weight than the other. So this is just average weighting. Because why I say this is affordability does not translate directly to quality of life, right? So based on what we are providing now, the fact that Adamawa or Taraba is more affordable than, let's say, Imo State doesn't mean that I will have a better quality of life in either of those states. Okay, that's great. So the implication here now is what we are simply measuring is the prices of commodities as we find in every of all of these states, and then based on the average values we take and the uniform weighting, we are saying, this is more affordable than the others. Okay, because why I'm saying this is when you look at things like the cost of accommodation and the cost of cooking your gas and all that, you will expect that in many of those distant states where you have to transport some of these things there, you will have to see an upsurge in price, and that might even, distort the original landscape. Okay, that's fine with that. I think this leads us, Peter, to an important issue, which is why we have Emeka here joining us for this particular series. Sometime last month, the Ministry of Communications brought out a circular. But there was an announcement that the government planned to train 3 million Nigerians in tech talents. And so they had this 100%. So they're going to start with 1%, which is about 30,000 of that number, and then move to 10%. I think 10% should be about, so 10% of 3 million would be about 300,000. And then 100% where they train whatever is remaining, whatever they mean in that. The problem here is, which is where I want to start with you, Peter. The government, we've had all of these things. NDDC has done their own training in time past. We've had different trainings, organized for, young people and all that. And the claim here is that they are being trained in very technical courses. Peter, you are doing a PhD in computer science. I did a PhD. You know how difficult it is to go learn things like AI, software development and all that, especially when it comes to the theoretical grounding and all that. And of course, beyond even the learning now is even practice, trying to be in an environment where many of these things learned can be practiced, and have those skills further honed. My question, Peter, this evening to you is simple. Do you think such policy makes sense at all? Take these 30,000 people and then send them over to training schools to get trained in software development and all that for, let's say, 3 months. And then, the claim is that they have placement, although we don't have any idea about the placements. How do you see this plan working out in the long term?
I think when the time when this plan will work, if the government simultaneously invests in all these tech hubs that we have, these startup hubs that's springing up all over the country, where you have, and then you have all these incubators. That's the right word, incubators. So you have programs where they are like investing funds in people that have ideas to, start different kinds of tech stuff, apps or whatever it is, or web, whether it's web or mobile. So that, because you raised the key point there, which is, obviously with tech, a lot of it boils down to personal aptitude and personal thing. But the training as an idea is a good thing, right? I wouldn't say it's not good. It's a good thing, because we want to empower our the population, as you've said in previous things. The Nigerian population is very young. It's very important to like supercharge and leverage that advantage we have, so that we have a higher percentage of skilled workers. But there will be a problem if there's no like industry or capacity to absorb those people into a proper workforce. Obviously, even if they're trained for 6 months, they might not be able to, contribute to it if you have a proper thing. But we can have the government's partner that will like internship programs that are sponsored by the government, where they would like release funds to these startups and say, okay, we'll give this amount of money, take on a couple of interns, train them, let them work with you for a year, and then give us a report on all that stuff, So that's when it will work. Because if you just push like 30,000 people, learn something for 3 months, and it's just going to be, and then you also know the problem of corruption. Before the money even gets down to where it should get to, you know how much it's going to be. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
You are raising a very important point, but I want to draw out something from there. Now, the government is not paying these people for the training. They are paying for the cost of training, but there is no fund set aside to pay the people undergoing those trainings. Now, I want to ask Emeka a question. Emeka, you recently led a nationwide survey across the country, and your foundation, LAPT, conducted this survey where you interviewing young people. So Oaks Intelligence facilitated that for your foundation. And the idea was to interview young people across the country and gauge their perception based on, how do they perceive advanced free fraud, or what we call Yahoo. Can you please give us a summary of what happened, and then basically some of the shocking findings or interesting findings you have from that in 2 minutes?
Okay, good evening, everyone. So the idea of the survey was to understand the perception of young Nigerians, particularly teenagers and tweens, as those in their preteens, to understand their perception around online fraud, advanced fee fraud, what we call Yahoo here in Nigeria. And the survey was conducted across all the states in Nigeria and the Federal Capital Territory. The results were not really shocking. They just only confirmed things that have been suspected in the public domain for a while. For example, the fact that there seems to be more acceptability or more excuses given for online fraud in the southern part of the country. So in the southwest, which had the highest rate of people saying that, because the questions we asked them were around their views on the legitimacy of online fraud. Quite a number of people say that we should excuse online fraud because of the extent of poverty in the land. So we wanted to ask the young teenagers what were their views, and also wanted to find out from them if they knew anybody, a friend, a sibling, a neighbor, who was engaging in online fraud. And you notice that the South had higher values. In fact, for males in the South, you have as much as 40% in some places. So it means that at least almost 1 in every 2 teenagers in the southern part of the country, if we were to extrapolate and then generalize this data, which is not easy to do because of out-of-school children, but the percentage of out-of-school children in the South is actually lower. So you can almost say with some level of confidence that at least 1 in 3 children in the southern part of Nigeria know somebody who is engaged in online fraud. And the thing about online fraud is that it is not like other crimes, not like kidnapping or armed robbery that are seen as reprehensible crimes. Online fraud is a bit trendy and flashy. So we see online fraudsters online and how they spend money and they look attractive. So it means that we have a lot of role models for people in this part. Doesn't also mean that in the North there was no prevalence of fraud in the North, but you had it lower there, but the rate was a bit high in the north central part of Nigeria. So the results are a bit bothersome because it's a question of with the new initiatives to train young Nigerians generally, right, inclusive of young Nigerians on digital skills. There is also the risk that as teenagers and young people become more tech savvy, right, and if they are not given opportunities to express that in legitimate work, that they may be diverted to become fraudsters or more skilled fraudsters, because we already have a lot of them engaging in fraud. Yeah, that they may be diverted to become more skilled in online fraud.
Hello there. Oaks Intelligence is one of the fastest rising technology and business companies that offers services such as software development, where we build, maintain, support, and provide assistance throughout the entire software development lifecycle. We have built a massive team of enumerators across the country who amass data for us on a weekly basis. The data collected is used to curate interesting newsletters and beautiful content that keep our subscribers abreast of the economic health of our country. That's not all yet. We also offer consulting services for business analysis and process improvement for your products and services. We have authored economic and financial books for children and teenagers, and finally, we offer project management services to help you execute tremendous projects, making your dreams and goals achievable and a reality. To get more information about us and regular feeds from us, you can follow us on all of our social media handles.
Yeah, thanks, Emeka, for that. Peter, now back to you. You see, when the government set up the plan to train 3 million people, this is my concern, Peter. How do you expect a young person who isn't engaged, unemployed? Don't forget that Nigeria has a very high percentage of its young people unemployed. So how do you expect those persons to fund the training, transportation, the cost of data, internet, and all that. That's one part. And then the second part is, how do you close the gap, ensuring that whatever skills they've even learned, there is useful work to, simply pipe that into. So that momentum gained in training them is just piped and directed into useful work. And so you have that system closed, so you don't lose them you don't have them become more skilled fraudsters. So that's my question to you, Peter. Now, in this plan that the government has brought up, do you think there is a more sensible way that this could have been packaged, or this should be packaged, to ensure that these folks can sustain the program? They can sustain their participation. There are funds available to ease their participation, and ensure that they don't have things that can distract them. They have resources available to make sure they can participate. But beyond that, they also have activities that can take them on, when they complete the training, Peter.
Okay, thank you, Chuks. What I would say is that, if the government is funding so the way the tech space is, right? This might be a bit of a more radical view, but to a large extent, those that are very successful in tech are people that are self. So where I would say is, if they were doing if it's a physical training, then obviously when they get there, anything about network and all that will be sorted by this. I don't know if that's not the case, then I don't know if they're even serious about it. So obviously that is sorted. But I don't think I would be of the opinion or by the idea of maybe giving them money to say, okay, well, this is how much, this is some money, take transport and come. Also, just the way Nigerians are. Once they see that money, they will not come again.
But they paid you for internship, Peter. So why were you paid for internship as a university student? You could pay you for your internship. Federal government paid us money for internship as university.
Oh, you mean for Cyrus?
Yeah, for Cyrus. So if you could pay for Cyrus, why can't you pay people to go and learn training for 3 months?
They didn't pay me for Cyrus, so maybe they paid
people
you.
Were paid.
Maybe they didn't pay me.
I wasn't paid, but my classmates, my colleagues were paid.
Yeah. So if they were paid because they were actually working, right? But in this case, it's just like you're doing an internship. They are actually sponsoring their training. So it's not like they're working. They are going to be taught what they are supposed to pay for. They are receiving that training for free.
Then why do we have scholarships, Peter? Scholarships pay your fees and also pay you living expenses. Your training is being funded, so why should you get maintenance grants in addition to that? Because what we are saying is, these people don't have resources, Peter. They are not empowered. They don't even have transport to go to their places of training. They don't even have materials to even have laptops. Internet facilities, internet is quite expensive in Nigeria. So how are they support? Because you see, the issue here is, a plan may be very, very noble. But the concern here is how do you ensure that the guys get value for money from that plan? Government is going to invest resources in funding the trainers, and you also expect that these people will participate. How do you support participating, Peter? Cost of living crisis.
Yeah, those are very good points. Yeah, so it probably be a good idea to, I don't know how it will be executed anyway, to release funds for them to be able to maybe cover their transport expenses or whatever it is. I don't know, because then the whole issue, the only way I would see it work is if there's actually money released them. But then if you want to talk about transportation, then talk about how you're going to convey them. But I think what is a more pressing issue, or what is the issue that is of a higher priority, because the Nigerian person we have a very strong individual. And if we want to get something, we'll get it. So, but what is more pressing for me is that there is actually a plan, an exit plan for those who have been trained. To me, that is more pressing. That is of a higher priority. Yes. Now, because when they finish this training now, and maybe they've been trained for 3 months or whatever it is, and so on, if the government does not, I know you're aware of this, Chuks, that other governments, more developed in developed countries, they give grants for startups and all that. They have programs. I don't know. I can't remember what they call it, the incubator program or whatever. But they have programs to encourage startups, right? So if they can marry these two, okay, we are training people, because at the end of the day, what advantage do those countries like China and India have over Nigeria currently is that they have a much higher skilled labor force, a much higher percentage of skilled labor force, right? And that's the reason why they've dominated the tech space, because the tech space is unique in that it is borderless, right? So somebody in China can be working for a US government, somebody in Nigeria can be working for a Japanese, firm and all that. So there's much more competition than if it was in other sectors where you're in Nigeria, you go to work, sit down, and that's no. So what I'm saying is the government needs to, at least in addition. So another thing is, I think we should, if they're actually executing this well, we should at least say, okay, well, at least for this one you've done, well done. But let's do this properly. So if we're doing it properly, let's marry it together with putting measures in place so that at least, even not everyone, but at least the top performers will feed into some sort of internship program or something. After which they'll be, at least at that point, we don't expect to hand guide them through the whole thing, but at least at that point they will be at a level where they can.
Okay. Let me come back to Dorothy. Dorothy, you are the Minister of Communications, and you were to develop a program to train young people across the country. So how would you have gone about this differently or better than what we currently have?
Okay, thank you very much. So I think this very program is actually very good for the people that are about to get trained, but at the same time, I see it as it's going to be too much. The number of people they are taking at a time is too much. So I would suggest that if they will go batch by batch, let it be in sections, something like, okay, we have this number of people in this date, so they can monitor their progress and make sure that all these people are attending and also get the knowledge that they get at a time. That would have been better.
Thanks, Dorothy. I think, Peter, you see, one thing about Nigeria is that we like big numbers. So they came up with these 3 million numbers that they want to train. And for me, what I think...
Let me tell you one thing. This thing is just politics. I'm telling you the truth. That's what I was saying last time. It's optics, playing to the gallery. If they really want to... Nigerians know what to do. Like the government, if they know what to do. Like we have very smart people that are very experienced in all these things. So all these things we are saying, if they're really serious about executing it, not just making a big statement so that people say, wow, well done. They know how to put it in plan. But again, let's not forget or underestimate the power or the impact of corruption. Let me just stop there.
Okay, let me come back to Emeka before. From your interviews that have been conducted so far, I mean, do you think the young people are amenable to improvements if perhaps they see interest or some level of concession from government in terms of, the availability of resources and opportunities made available to them? Do you think many of those young people who currently now are expressing interest or have mild, they have some mild acceptance to Yahoo, do you think perhaps we may stem the tide there or nip it in the bud there if perhaps this government becomes more proactive in some of the measures and opportunities made available to some of these young people?
In my opinion, unfortunately, at scale, no. At very, very minor levels, yes, we would see positive youth moving in a positive direction as against moving in the area of online fraud. The thing about online fraud is that it's not necessarily a poverty issue as much as it's becoming a cultural issue, right? When it becomes a cultural issue, people are not necessarily engaging in it any longer because of just poverty. Mm-hmm. They are engaging in it now because it's trendy. People, their mentors who are even educated, who are in universities, are doing it, and they're trying to just steer them in that direction. So it's not like a full-time thing for them. It's like you can be doing music and doing Yahoo. You can be trying to enter the university and doing Yahoo. You can be on strike and doing Yahoo. So it's a cultural thing. So what the government is doing will not necessarily solve that problem. And also, the other thing I would like to mention is that it's very easy to lose sight of the fact that Nigeria is a very large country. If we're talking about solutions like this for dealing with a country that has like 20 million to 30 million, it's a different ball game entirely. You have a country of over 200 million. We don't even have exact statistics, but we assume that it's over 200 million people, right? And quite a substantial number of these people are out of school. And solutions like this, most often than not, end up benefiting the people who, with or without government intervention, will find their way, especially those in the South, right, where the out-of-school population is lower. So it's a catch-22 situation because you cannot innovate your way out of poverty. You cannot use, you cannot train people in tech and use that to solve zero. I'll give you a practical example. It's been trending today that Mr. Beast did 100 wells in certain African cities, right? And people are making reference to the fact that it's not going to solve any problem because similar initiatives have all floundered because people end up vandalizing these things, people end up stealing them. So you can't innovate your way out of the fact that there's no light, and there's no light means that there will be an uptick of theft or vandalization. Right? You can't innovate your way out of that. So you can do the beautiful policies. You can even decide to build innovation centers in the 774 local government areas. But maybe you finish setting them up, right? The next day or a few days after, the thieves will come and cut things away because we thought of everything but forgot to think about the fact that we needed adequate security, right? So, yeah, I think the initiative is a very good one, very laudable one, but because of the major infrastructural challenges we have that need such initiatives to work, we might not really see even attaining an average success rate.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, Chooks, can I come in?
1 minute.
Just briefly. Okay, yeah, 1 minute, sorry. So given what the second Chooks said, okay. Now what I would say is it might be a better plan to do like a staggered approach. Right. So if the government were to take like maybe one state or two states, focus on those two states, execute it, finish it, see this thing, then move to another two states. Right? I think that would be much more effective than trying to just spread everything across. Because then
I agree.
Thinner resources.
So the next one that Peter will be ready to answer the question of how do you select the state, and then it delves into the issue of because it's a Christian, because it's a Muslim. So you see,
you can even, if I may come in, you can even do one in each of the geopolitical zones. You can start by doing one in.
How do you select your state?
So one state.
How do you select the state?
One state per geopolitical zone.
How do you select that one?
Look, Chooks, that one to me is not a big issue. If we want to actually, you really want to be transparent, we can even do it the way FIFA selects all those people that you put for this thing. Do a round robin.
You cast slots.
Just select.
You cast slots.
Cast slots. Simple.
All right, thank you.
But corruption, you don't allow us to do it.
Okay. Well, so that's all we have for today. Thanks, Rejoice. Thanks, Dorothy. Thanks, Peter, Emeka, and Toby. Sincere thanks for making yourself available for this particular series. Ladies and gentlemen, until we meet again next week, have a splendid evening. Please remember you can follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at Oaksintel. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, and we are also on Facebook, Oaks Intelligence. Please do well to subscribe to our newsletters, and of course, take advantage of the three free offerings we have every week. On Mondays, 9 a.m., we send out our Echo News. On Wednesdays, 9 a.m., we send out our Echo, our Echo Tracker, which
Echo
is
Tracker.
Tracker. And of course, on Fridays, we have the Echo Tales.
Echo Tales.
You can subscribe to our newsletter, www.oaksintelligence.co, and of course, you'll be met with the subscribe option there on the homepage. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, and have a splendid evening. Bye.
Hi there. Are you interested in getting weekly updates on interesting economic news, prices of commodities across the country, and many more? Subscribe to our EcoWeather weekly newsletter where we bring you updates across the country. To subscribe, open your browser and input the shortened link. After you have opened the page, input your details like your email address, first name, and last name, after which you click on the subscribe button. Now you are always on top of important updates across the country.